Hello and welcome back for another episode of the Damn Podcast. I am your host, Angie Machado, publisher of BeaverBlitz.com, and joined with me is our fearless beat writer, Jake Hedberg, who has spent an awful lot of time in Corvallis. In fact, I think you're coming to us from Corvallis today, right?
Yep.
Okay, so
Yes,
we are at week 3 right now, fall camp, and typically we would have been shut out. Media would have been shut out by now, but we still have a couple more days to go. And we're going to talk a little bit about that fall camp wrap up as the team kind of starts to transition from fall camp to actual football prep for the season. We are going to preview the 2023 season. So Jake and I are going to go game by game, kind of give some 10,000 level foot kind of breakdown of kind of where we see things. We have a mailbag with not a ton of questions, but we have some questions that we're going to go through. We'll have the Guess the Beaver. Jake, are you going to stump me today?
I need to think of one still.
Okay. He's not quite ready. And then we may. I cannot promise, but we may have a special guest. So we have to be kind of fluid here because if this player, it's a football player, and if he is able to break free from meetings, he is going to join us. I kind of told him anytime in this 4:30 hour, if he could pop in, that would be fantastic. I'm not going to give it away quite yet because I don't want to be giving him a bad time if he doesn't make it. But we will get him in at some point this season. But Jake, Corvallis again today. Weather has been fantastic. Let's just start with kind of breaking fall camp right now. Kind of, what is your thought as the Beavers enter the third week? Have you seen a lot of improvement? You know, what are the areas that you're really excited, to see come first game on the 3rd against San Jose?
Yeah. I'm just really excited to see how the passing game translates. It's been pretty impressive during practice so far. During 7-on-7 today, the quarterbacks went 16 for 18, which haven't really seen that from Oregon State in a while. But at this point, I'm not sure if that's really due to Oregon State's quarterback play and receiver play being that much improved from a season ago, or if the secondary has taken that much of a step backwards from last year. So I'm really interested to see how the secondary does against really a good San Jose State passing attack, and then how the Oregon State passing attack does against San Jose State, who their secondary's kind of got some question marks. So
yeah, so we're finishing up fall camp. I think there's still a little bit kind of wrapping up fall camp mode. But what we are, what we are seeing is the team starting to transition more to game prep mode, where the first and second team guys are going to start getting more and more reps. You saw that today with quarterback. Tell us what you saw.
Yeah. Really throughout most of camp, it had been a DJ and Gilbranson split 50-50, both running with the first team, both running with the second team. Whereas today we kind of saw DJ get nearly every rep with the first team. And I think it's really just a matter of time before he's officially announced the starter. My guess is it's going to be Monday of next week at Coach Smith's press conference. I'm kind of surprised we saw the difference in reps this early. I kind of was assuming we wouldn't see that, but it's clear to where the coaches' minds are currently headed.
Next Monday, it's going to be a big day. Big day for you because you'll be going to your first Coach Smith press conference. Big day for me because I'm moving my son into college. So any totally changing the subjects, but anybody out there who's taking your kids to college, please give me advice because I'm kind of in this strange space right now. So be thinking of me next Monday. But what have we learned? You talked a little bit about, it looks like DJ's the guy. We've been talking about that now for some time. Defensively, you talked about the secondary being a question, but I think the biggest takeaway I've seen is just how strong the front seven is on defense. Give me your kind of rundown on the front seven.
Yeah, I think this front seven is legit. I think they're legitimately too deep at all 7 spots. They've got guys that will go and pressure the quarterback. Hopefully they can capitalize and get the quarterback down, which, as evidenced by the USC game last year, was an issue at times. But if camp is any indication, this front seven really has a chance to be something special. And I'm excited to see how well they perform the first couple games of the season. So
tell me, is it personnel? Is it scheme? Is it just the guys knowing kind of their spot? What is the change that you're seeing because this has kind of been maybe the biggest question mark with the defense for several years now?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of improved talent to go with experience. you've got guys playing their 6th year of Division I football, and John McCartan, Isaac Hodgins, Corey Stover's been at Oregon State a while. And then you've got talented younger guys, Takari Hickle, Thomas Collins, Easton Mascarenas. I'm really excited to see how the younger guys and the older guys gel, because the talent mixed together with the experience has a chance to really impress.
So, and you mentioned Thomas Collins, but another name that I heard yesterday at the scrimmage, media was closed out, but
yeah,
we had some people that were there that were able to kind of give us some heads up, but was Nico Taylor. What have you seen from that, the JUCO transfer?
I mean, Taylor's a guy that physically looks the part. He's 6'5", 242 pounds, I believe. He's long, lanky, and he was working with the first team today, which we hadn't seen all camp until today. And he impressed. He had a sack of, I want to say it was Cole Branson, don't remember. And he had a few tackles for loss as well. And so this just proves that, between Taylor, Chatfield, Stover, McCartan, Oluwisio Matoshu, there's guys that'll be able to get in the backfield and cause havoc.
Yeah, so you mentioned a couple of those names. Andrew Chatfield is one that I think has kind of been overlooked, that I am expecting big things.
Quite frankly, I think Chatfield's had the best camp out of all 5 of those guys. I think he's, out of those 5, I think he's the one that has a starting spot locked down. And then there's 3 guys competing for the other spot.
And then I know you've been super high to Takari Hickle. Where has he been running? Second team, third team?
Predominantly the second team. He's been sprinkling in with the 3s a lot as well. They've been kind of rotating guys, trying to see which guys gel the best, but primarily he's been with the second team.
Yeah, okay. And then I have to ask, because this is your big takeaway was how well Drew Chatfield has looked. But one guy that has just popped every single time I've been in Corvallis is true freshman Thomas Collins. Yeah. Give us a little rundown there on how he's doing.
Collins is a stud. I mean, there hasn't been a practice where he's not making impact plays. He's just physically built. He looks like a grown man, and he's only 18. He's going to be a guy from game 1 that is going to see time, and he's going to bring an impact. He's going to find his way into the backfield. He's going to pressure the quarterback. And I think Oregon State found themselves a gem here. I mean, Collins was a kid from Sweden, but his offer list, Texas A&M, Oregon, Penn State, big-time programs. This was a huge get, and he's going to be a star, I truly believe. Okay.
You heard it here first. Now let's move back to the linebackers a little bit. Easton Mascarenas has that, number 2 or that inside linebacker spot sealed up. Who's on the other side of him?
Yeah, we still don't really know. Last couple practices, he's kind of been held out for precautionary reasons, getting close. You don't want to lose your bigger impact guys. I think it's down to John Miller and Calvin Hart. Tung's given a great effort, but I think they're trying to go with someone who's a little more experienced on the defensive side at the moment. And I could see this one going either way. I'm leaning towards my guess is John Miller starts the first game just because he's been in the system longer. He's a guy the coaching staff can maybe trust a little more. But Calvin Hart is going to play. He's had his moments, his camp. I think this is a competition that's going to carry on, and they could rotate all year, to be honest.
Okay. Do you see Micaiah getting playing time?
Yeah. Tung he'll definitely hit playing time. He's a guy the coaching staff is going to trust to play on all 4 special teams as well, I would assume. So Tung is going to play lots of football this year. Not sure how much on defense, but you will see him out there. Okay, now let's talk about the secondary, because that kind of give a rundown there, because you have Katana Ladapo back. Alton Julian now has been cleared to go. Yeah.
And we've been seeing him more and more in practice. Jaden Robinson, a veteran there at corner. Tyrese Ivy. Tell us what you're seeing there, from the 2D, and who you see being impact guys.
It appears their starting 5 has seemed to be solidified. It's kind of in the same 5. Tyrese Ivy and Drake Vickers and Jamal Kikoy as well, the true freshmen, are kind of battling for that second corner spot. But Tyrese has seen a lot of work with the ones, and he's kind of pulled away. So I think Tyrese Ivy and then Jaden Robinson are going to be locked in at the corner spots. Ryan Cooper's back. He'll play nickel while also playing cornerback during the 4 defensive back sets, if I had to guess. And they'll probably slide out Tyrese Ivy then. And then between Katana Ladapu and Achille Arnold, I think they have 2 really good safeties. Achille Arnold's someone who's been really impressive in the last 3 practices in particular. He had 2 interceptions on Wednesday. He had 3 to 4 passes broken up today. And he's a guy that's played a lot of ball. He's just had guys in front of him with Jaden Grant, Catan, Alton Julian, and I think he's going to have a solid year.
Yeah, there's depth there, and you and I have seen at practice. I mean, the guys are making plays. So will it be maybe a little different than what we've seen? There were some names there with Alex Austin and Jaden Grant, which were stalwarts back in that defensive backfield. So there will be some change. But do you feel good about where they're going?
Yeah, I think this secondary, it's going to see some fall off, but not as much as you might think. A guy to keep an eye on, Jermod Hikoy, true freshman from White House, Texas. He has been really impressive. He had a great pass broken up today. He's going to play, whether it be on special teams or at corner. So just get ready to lock in on that name, Jermod McCoy.
Jermod McCoy, we did see him start too at the scrimmage a week ago.
First scrimmage, yep.
That was big too. Okay, so we've talked defense now. Let's talk some offense. I know we've talked quarterback some. We've all kind of just assumed, I think, since January, DJ Uiagalelei is the guy. I love kind of the poise that he brings, and he's I think it's going to bring some great things to the offense. Let's talk wide receivers, because if there's one position group in the Lodge of Beaver Blitz that gets a lot of attention, it's the wide receivers. Everybody wants a 6'5" wide receiver. Oregon State doesn't have that. So talk these guys off the ledge.
Yeah, I think their first 3 guys are solid. They're between Anthony Gould, Silas Bold, and Josiah Irish. Those 3 have established themselves as if they're healthy throughout the season, those 3 are going to be their guys. And height is a little bit of an issue there. Josiah's the tallest out of 5'11", but their backups, who they're going to rotate their backups a ton. There's going to be 6 to 7 of those backups. I think Oregon State could play up to 10 receivers per game. The bigger bodies there, Jimmy Valson's had a really nice camp. He's impressed. After being kind of a question mark, hadn't really seen him healthy, but now that he appears to be fully healthy, he's a big body. He's got pretty good hands. Jeremiah Noga, I think, has the best hands on the team. He's another bigger bodied guy. Jemai East, he's the junior college guy. He's starting to come on. He started off kind of slow. He had trouble hanging on to the ball, but drops haven't been an issue the last couple of practices. And I think he's a guy that, as the season ascends, you're going to start seeing going up from like a wide receiver 6 or 7 role to maybe 3 or 4.
Okay. And then a name that we keep seeing, and we haven't heard it for a while, but Trent Walker, walk on.
Yeah.
Trent Walker's one to watch.
Yeah, he's going to play. He is going to see time. And he's been really impressive. If Jeremiah Noga doesn't have the best hands on the team, Trent Walker's probably the guy. He's a guy. I know people kind of compare him to Mike Hass. They're both 28. They're both from the Beaverton area. But Walker's just a guy that he's just a good football player. He's always seems to be open. And this is going up against guys like Jaden Robinson and Tyrese Ivey and Alton Julian. He can get open and catch the ball. So I'm excited to see how Trent does this year.
I also think we're going to see Oregon State utilize the tight ends. And this is, we've had a discussion in the Lodge about, I think everybody wants to see that tight end that's able to, run a slant, hit the open flat in the center of the field and be able to take a hit. I think we see the tight ends take that role. A question from Connor Johnson asked about Joel Valadez, transfer from Linfield. He is out, I believe, with an ACL. So
out for the year.
He's out for the year. So that was unfortunate, but hopefully he can heal and be back in the mix. But that is running back. I don't think there's much to say. Still pretty strong. You have
I think Damian, you have 3 solid guys.
Got to stay healthy.
Yeah, health is an issue, but Jake Reichel and Gavin Haynes have both, at least in practice, they don't really have the game experience, but they've showed in practice that they're good. They're good, solid backs. And reports from yesterday's scrimmage said that Jake Reichel looked good. So
okay. And then, in my opinion, the strength of this offense, and as we go down and talk about a lot of the teams that Oregon State is going to be playing, you're going to see this is a question mark for a lot of teams. But this is such a huge piece: is Oregon State's offensive line. I know they've been sitting some guys out on that first team just to keep them as healthy as possible. What are you seeing from the guys that have been running with the ones, but maybe more of a second team guys?
Yeah, I feel like their first group's pretty established. They've been having guys kind of take off days. Jake Levengood didn't go today, but like they're all completely healthy. Tolley had a day off. Gray had a couple days off. Bloomfield as well. But I think Tanner Miller has also established himself as that starting guard, which
beat out
was
Grant
a big
Stark.
question. Yeah, I just haven't seen enough of Stark with the first team, and Tanner has run with them consistently. And at this point, I feel like they may both play in the game, but I feel like Tanner's going to start. Beyond that, the second team offensive line's a younger group. They got guys like Jacob Strand at tackle, the coaching staff really likes. Huka Vincic, Dylan Lopez, they're both guys who are cross-training at guard and center. They're both going to be on that 2 deep. Tyler Morano as well, and then Grant Stark. I feel like with those 10 guys, Oregon State's solid. Beyond that, kind of a question mark just because we haven't really seen a lot of them play. A lot of them are younger freshmen, redshirt freshmen, inexperienced guys.
So you're feeling good. I mean, do you feel that's the strength of this offense?
I do. I feel like the run game with our running backs combined with our offensive line is going to be the strength. I feel like it's going to open up so much with the play action game. And if DJ can hit the balls downfield, this offense is going to be scary.
So if you had one looming question on the offense, what would it be?
My biggest question would be consistency from the quarterback spot. With DJ, he's had his ups and downs. If he has his ups, the scrimmage last Saturday, he's 10 for 16 with 3 touchdowns. Now, we haven't really seen his downs like his sophomore year at Clemson, but as evidenced by his sophomore year at Clemson, he's had them. And if we do have those downs, then who knows what the ceiling of his team is. But we do know if DJ plays to the level he can play, then the ceiling of his team is, the sky's the limit. So. Okay.
Looming question for the defense.
Yeah, for this, it's just how well will the secondary play? They've had their issues against the Oregon State passing game in the spring in the fall, and whether that's the Oregon State passing game being so much better or a weakened secondary, we don't really know yet because we haven't played a team. But to me, I'm kind of leaning towards the secondary taking a step back. So that's my big thing to keep an eye on for this in the San Jose State game in particular.
Yeah, and that's going to be a big one. That's a great segue into now. Let's start talking about game by game. What we're going to see. I've seen some questions too before I get going about the whole Pac-12 realignment. We have nothing new to report, so we are just going to not talk about it because there's no need to keep beating that horse. So as soon as we do have something to talk about, we will do an emergency pod, promise. But as of right now, we're going to keep it fall camp wrap and season preview. And like I said, hopefully get a special guest. He's not here yet. So, but he is a current football player and they may have meetings today. So he was trying to get that lined up. Okay. So San Jose State, this is going to be a true test. First, it's a road game. Beavs play on a Sunday of Labor Day weekend. So that's going to be an important, they're going to have a little bit different schedule heading into next week. So kind of quick overview here. We got San Jose State, coached by Coach Brennan. Brent Brennan was the wide receiver coach at Oregon State for several years under Riley and Anderson and Smith for a year. The strength of that team, we've talked to their publisher, their 24/7 site. The strength is their quarterback, a transfer from Hawaii. Is it Chavin Cordero?
I think it's Chevin Cordero. That's
okay.
That's the way I've always, but I have no clue, to be honest.
Okay, it's a good Portuguese name, so there you go. But that is their strength. The kid came from Hawaii, transferred from Hawaii. Their weakness is their trenches, though. So you're going to, I think, see a lot of really quick releases from them, a lot of passing downfield. How do you like this game and this matchup?
Yeah, I think it's a solid first matchup. The San Jose State offense, they like to throw the ball, so it'll be a good test for a more inexperienced secondary. With Chevin Cordero is a solid quarterback. We saw him play against Oregon State in 2021. He had a few touchdown passes that game. Their receiving core took a little bit of a hit. They lost their best receiver in Elijah Cooks. He's with the Jacksonville Jaguars, I believe, now. The running game is also kind of the running game's going to be a strength. So this team will score some points. I'm not expecting it to be a 45-7 game. I'm expecting it to be more of a 45-21, 45-28. This team they'll put up some points. Defensively, their defensive line's weak. Cade Hall graduated. He was first team all conference guy. And then Filimi Fahiko, he's a 4th-round draft pick of the Cowboys. So there's 2 all-conference defensive linemen gone. And for an Oregon State team with an offensive line as strong and a running game as strong, I think Dame Fenwick and Isaiah, they're going to feast.
Okay. Well, and then Clint Moses in the chat here says San Jose State will also be beat down after playing USC. So they play USC this weekend.
Yeah.
Going to be watching that game?
5 o'clock on Pac-12 Network.
Yes,
5 o'clock Pac-12 Network.
So that will be a definite one to watch, not only for the USC. It's also a good point for me to bring up. If you guys are members of Beaver Blitz, we actually have a college football pick'em, an official Beaver Blitz pick'em game that I'm doing through a third party. It makes it super easy and fun. If you haven't signed up, the link is in the lodge. So get signed up on that or shoot me a DM on Twitter if you'd like more info. But that will be a fun one, and get in now because it's we have a great prize already. One of our members has donated a Ketan Oladapo jersey. So that will be one of the prizes, and I'm working on a few other things. So definitely be a fun one there. Okay, so do you want to do your picks game by game, or do you want to wait to do our picks till after we're done?
Yeah, I can read my picks.
Okay, let's just hear your pick.
Yeah, I had Oregon State winning, I believe, 45-24.
Yeah, you took it a step further because I didn't. I'm just doing the W.
I'm checking right now. I had it. Yep, 45-24. That was my score.
There you go. Okay, so tell me this. So the next game, Oregon State comes home and they play UC Davis, coached by former Boise State coach Dan Hawkins. So that'll be interesting. I mean, longtime coach, a really good coach. Strength of that team is the quarterback. The weakness is the running game. So maybe another test. This is an FCS school. Maybe another test for the secondary. But what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this team, it's always harder to kind of learn about the FCS schools preseason just because there isn't really the same kind of coverage. But their quarterbacks, he's a legit quarterback. His name's Miles Hastings, I believe. He was first team All Big Sky. He was preseason first team All Big Sky as well. So they're going to come out and throw the ball, and it'll be another good test for a secondary, especially hopefully if the game's a blowout in the second half. We're good to see our younger guys, the Joe Swens, Noble Thomases, those guys really get their first live action.
Do we see any Aiden Childs and Zach Card?
Yeah, I think you're going to see. I think that second half, if the game goes the way many are expecting it to go, it's going to be one the Beaver fans are going to want to stick around and watch that second half because you're going to see the future. And if practice is any indication, the future is going to be pretty bright.
Yeah, Jake and I actually, before we came on air, we were talking because the very first play we saw spring camp was an Aiden Childs 50-yard post route to Zach Card, perfectly placed, in stride. And then yesterday, the highlight of the scrimmage, we were told, was a Aiden Childs and Zach Card. Those two are going to be special, but that's for another day. Okay, what did you pick for a win on this game? I'm guessing it's a win.
Yes, I had a 52-7 Oregon State win.
Okay. So kind of similar to last season when Oregon State played. Who did we play last season? Montana State. Yeah. Okay.
I'm expecting the backups to get a lot of time.
Okay.
The younger guys, the freshmen, the Kelsey Howards.
First game in the new research too. So that will be fun to watch.
Students are going to be excited for that one.
Yeah. And we saw that last week. I guess we haven't done a pod since then. And then the fans got to see it this weekend. So fun time. We can maybe talk about that at the end if we have time. Then San Diego State comes to town, coached by Brady Hoke, former assistant at Oregon State. There was rumors that he was going to be one of the coaches before Smith was hired. He was one that was looking at it. Their strength is the secondary, and their weakness is wide receivers. Is this a game then that, maybe Oregon State's passing game can pick up a little bit?
Yeah, I think this is when you're going to see Oregon State really push the ball downfield or attempt to. The secondary is strong, and it'll be a good test. Should be a win. San Diego State's a good program, but offensively they don't have the firepower to keep up. I'm hoping the coaching staff kind of lets DJ let loose, because this will be the best secondary Oregon State they'll have played at that point in the season. Granted, it is early on, but I think it'll be. I have it down as like a 38-7 win. I just don't see the San Diego State offense being explosive enough. They don't have those Donnell Pumphrey type running backs that they had in the 2010s, and they lost 2 receivers to the NFL. Their passing game's a question mark. Their offensive line's strong, but I just don't see them scoring enough points to keep up with Oregon State.
Okay, fair enough.
It was a 34-10.
34-10. Okay.
That's what I had down.
I have it as a win as well. Okay, so then Oregon State will start conference play. Hit the road after 2 home games. They are on the road to the Palouse to face Jake Dickert and the Washington State Cougars. Now, this one, I've heard some people say they're a little concerned about this game. You have 2 teams that are kind of fighting for their life right now with the Power 5. I think very similar situations. Their strength, according to Coop Fan, is that their passing attack, and that their weakness is their offensive line. So you're going to see a lot of quick downfield run and shoot.
Yeah.
What is your take? Like I said, I've heard people think that this might be a game that the Beavers stumble, first road game. I'm anxious to hear what you have to say about this game.
Yeah, I mean, this is their biggest trap game I have circled on their schedule. Washington State, they're a good football team. They're going to turn some heads this year. Cam Ward is a great quarterback. He blew up the FCS level. He had not a disappointing debut year, but maybe not what national heads were expecting. But I think this year he's gonna have a better year, kind of adjusted to the Division I tempo. His receiving core is solid. Dejon Stribling, he's a good receiver, but their offensive line is a question mark. They have 3 returning starters, but their offensive line last year allowed, I want to say, 40-something sacks. So this is a game where hopefully that Oregon State front 7 can make the impact.
So if Oregon State's front 7 can make some noise, otherwise this is going to be a major test for that secondary.
Yeah, because Washington State's their passing game, the last decade, they've given us fits. And with the younger until last year, where that secondary was established and as good as it was. So with the secondary being more of a question mark, we could see Jaden Halor, the 400-yard passing games. But with the front 7 potentially playing to the level they've played in camp, that could allow Cam Ward to, make some mistakes, which hopefully the Oregon State secondary can capitalize on.
Okay, so do you see this as a trap game, or do you have it as a win?
I have Oregon State squeaking out 28-24.
28-24. Okay, I have this as a win too, but I know others on Blitz that we will release late this week, early next week, aren't quite as optimistic on this one. Then the Beavers come home, and this might be one of the biggest games of the season. Students will be back in session. Yeah. Friday night game, FS1, national TV against Utah. This is going to be another strong Ute team. Question marks, I think, are surrounding quarterback right now.
Yeah.
The strength, obviously, is the defense. Their insider said that their weakness is their tough schedule. I think that's kind of a cop-out, because everybody in the Pac-12 pretty much has a tough schedule. But defense is always tough for a Whittingham coach team. What are your thoughts on this one, except that Reeser's going to be rowdy?
Yeah, well, for this one, I put down tough schedule just because I couldn't find a weakness, and that was when Cam Rising was supposed to be back, and now there's a question mark. So now, obviously, quarterback is huge because their backup, Brandon Rose, is out for a substantial amount of time. So you could very well see them walk into Reeser with Bryson Barnes, who is a former I believe he is still a a walk-on at the quarterback spot, which could be a huge advantage. Cam Rising, he may not be the best quarterback, the most athletic, but he's just a guy that wins. He's kind of reminds me of Kellen Moore in that sense. He's just a guy that goes out and wins football games. Their defense, though, was legit. Lander Barton, they lost Clark Phillips, but the secondary still behind Cole Bishop is going to be one of the best in the country. Defensive line, Junior Tafuna is pushing the way. It's going to be tough for Oregon State, and it's really their first, at least offensively, it's going to be their first big test. It may be tougher for Oregon State to run the football, and it'll be with DJ going up against this good of a secondary. It'll be interesting to see how it translates. And I think the atmosphere is going to be probably the best we've seen at Research Stadium in a long time. The students are already, you're getting ready. They can't wait. Super excited.
It should be a fun one. That one's been circled on my calendar for a while. Do you have that as a win or a loss?
I have that chalked up as a 31-28 win.
Okay, a close one. Another close one.
If the quarterback play from Utah is where it could be with Bryson Barnes, I think Oregon State wins that more convincingly. And then if Rising's back at full health, there's a very good chance Utah comes to Corvallis and sneaks out a win. But there's really no way of knowing until that whole.
Yeah, the whole quarterback. That's a big one. But I do like the fact that it's early in the season and first Pac-12 home game. And like I said, the Friday night in Corvallis with students back, it's going to be fun.
It's going to be a lot.
Okay. So then Beavs hit the road for Cal. First week in October. Justin Wilcox, been there for a few years. I think he hired the year before Smith.
Mm-hmm.
2017.
This is or maybe 2 years. This is his 7th or 8th year at Cal.
Okay. So their strength is really Jackson Sermon at linebacker and Jade Knott at running back. The weakness is familiar thing here, offensive line. So how do you see this one? Yeah, Cal has struggled a lot lately. So, to do much of anything. Where do you see this one kind of going?
Yeah, Cal, they're really offensively kind of an unknown. Jade Knott has established himself as one of the better running backs in the Pac-12, and it's kind of crazy to think that Oregon State almost had him and Damian.
I know, right? Isn't that crazy?
That would have been that was the 2 best freshmen in the Pac-12 last year. Offensively, outside of the running back position, a whole lot of question marks. Their quarterback spot, they've got 3 guys that haven't played a ton of football with Sam Jackson, Fernando Mendoza, and Ben Finley. Really, Jackson appears to be the favorite to start, but he hasn't thrown more than 10 passes. Transfer from TCU. Offensive line, they lost a lot. Receivers, they lost their top 2 of their top 3 to the transfer portal. Their defense is led by Jackson Sermon, who's the son of their defensive coordinator, Peter Sermon, and he pound for pound might be the best linebacker in the Pac-12. He is. If you haven't watched his tape, I would highly recommend it. He plays linebacker. It's very evident he's a coach's son. He is a great linebacker. I just don't see Cal's offense being good enough to hang with Oregon State at all. I have this game chalked up as a 45-14 Oregon State win.
Okay. So you have no losses, right?
6-0. Yep.
6-0. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break here in a minute. Just want to first give a shout out to beaverblitz.com, powered by the 24/7 network. If you're not a member of Beaver Blitz, now is the time to join. We are offering a 30% off annual subscription. We'll be the spot to get all the information from practice as each week as the team leads up to their games, all the post-practice interviews, insight and discussion in the lodge. You won't find a better place for all your Beaver information. So make sure you are there. And if you're not, like I said, now's a great time to join. Don't wait until the end of the season because you're going to miss out on a ton of great info. beaverblitz.com. It's where you want to go. We've been around since 2002, so we're not going anywhere. Also, just to give you a quick heads up too, I'm going to pop our Pick'em link into the chat so you can join us on our official Beaver Blitz college football pick'em. So it's super easy. You'll be able to do it on your phone or on your computer. It's a super. It should be super fun. That's my plan anyway. That's the hope. We're going to take a quick break for the podcast listeners, and we'll be back in just a minute. Okay, welcome back. If you're joining us on the podcast network, if you are listening to us live, we weren't gone for long, but you need to go back through the second half of the schedule. So Jake right now has the Beavs sitting at 6-0 at the halfway mark. I have the Beavs sitting at 6-0 at the halfway mark. Okay, what's happening right now, Jake? Are we seeing the Beavs in the top 10 yet?
Yeah, I feel like with 6-0 and a win over Utah, if they're fully healthy and came into that game 4-0, I think you're seeing Oregon State kind of sitting at the 7-8-9 at 6-0. Should be highest ranking since 2012.
Okay. Well, now the second half of the season starts. And so now is one of those big times where you really, as a coach, you have to get these guys completely mentally, if you haven't already, getting them mentally bought in. So Beavs return home and have UCLA at home. Chip Kelly comes to town, brings his offense, which is really the strength of this team, the offensive scheme. Weakness is defense. So how do you see this one kind of shaken out?
Yeah, I really don't know what to think of UCLA at this point. Their quarterback is really the biggest question on that roster. You know, they got Dante Moore, flipped him late from U of O, and he's supposedly is in the running with Ethan Garbers, the Washington transfer. But skill player wise, they're pretty loaded. Carson Steele, he was an All-American back at Ball State, transferred to UCLA. J. Michael Sturdivant transferred from Cal. They've got guys. Offensive lines appears to be solid. They did go out and hire a new defensive coordinator, DeAnton Lynn. He's the son of former Chargers coach Anthony Lynn. And their defense, they've got guys on the edges, especially with their secondary and their linebacker core outside of Darius Mawuso. I think that's how you say it. It's a question mark, and I see Oregon State being able to throw the ball well, assuming that the offensive line can give them time, because the UCLA pass rushers are dynamic between Grayson Gabriel, the Murphy twins, and Leto Lato, who was a first-team All-American. And I see a comment from Jordan Johnson. Beavs going 6-0. I predict College game day will be in Corvallis. I think if Oregon State is 6-0, game day will make their way to this game. You think it? Okay, see, I'm thinking maybe Husky game, but I hope it's one of these. It's been a lifelong dream of mine. Would love to see that.
Okay. So does Oregon State escape that game 7-0?
I have Oregon State winning 38-24.
Okay. Oh,
just
so
too much uncertainty
touchdowns
at the quarterback. Yeah.
Okay.
Too much
so
uncertainty
then
there. Haven't seen enough.
Oregon State actually gets to have a bye there in that third week of October before hitting the road to Arizona. Now this one, to me, this is my trap game. Arizona on the road in Tucson. This is my kind of could be an eye opener. Jed Fish, coach. Their strength is their skill position players. Weakness is defense. So potentially, would this be a game that you could see DJ and Damian having a good day, or do you think this could be a tough one?
I think this is going to be a shootout. Arizona's offensive skill guys, they've got juice. Jade Delores proved to be an Oregon State killer in the past. Jacob Cowing and Teodoro McMillan, they're two of the top receivers in the country. Thomas McLaughlin at tight, or Tanner Thomas, don't remember, at tight end, solid tight end. Their run game strong, but this defense is full of holes. They lost their two best defenders, transferred to Southern California. They brought in Justin Flo from Oregon, but haven't really seen a whole lot of him. Their secondary's got question marks all throughout. I think Oregon's. I just don't think Arizona's defense is talented enough to stop Oregon State.
Okay, so you think they come out of this 8-0?
I believe I had it as a 41-31 win. I think both teams are going to score a lot of points.
I'm excited for this one. I'm going to be heading down to this one. So definitely have someone covering this one, and we'll get Jake on the road too this season. But this is going to be a one that I'm I'm going to watch closely. And I know Connor Johnson says this next game is his biggest trap game. Colorado on the road, so two back-to-back or a back-to-back road games for Oregon State. Coach Deion Sanders' first season in Boulder. The strength is their upgraded talent. Weakness is the offensive and defensive lines. What are you thinking about the game in Boulder?
Yeah, I'm not buying all the Coach Prime hype. I think he's a good coach, but for people to come out here and say they're going to go 8-4, 9-3, 10-2 in year one is just stupid. Like, I'm seeing national reporters put Colorado in the top 25, and I'm just thinking, there's no way. This team, talent-wise, they're better than a year ago. They brought in guys, Travis Hunter, Kwamani McLean, Shedeur Sanders. But it just – they have guys at skill spots, but their line play is going to be – I think their line play defensively is going to be reminiscent of the Gary Anderson era at Oregon State. Just Damian and Deshaun, they'll rip through the defensive line. I personally don't see this Colorado team winning more than 3 games. I'm just not buying it at all.
Yeah, this one's an interesting one. I mean, I agree. I think Coach Prime or Coach Deion is a good coach. I don't know how long he lasts in Colorado because it just doesn't seem like a fit to me.
Cultural, yeah.
But you can't win championships if you have a sucky offensive and defensive line. Sorry. So you could have all the best skill positions in the world, but if nobody's blocking for them, it's not going to be. Connor Johnson says they have dudes on the D-line for real. Well, I saw a practice, and I saw a guy that looked like a high school kid. So I just don't know how deep they are. They probably have a couple guys, but I just don't think. I don't. Now the altitude is no joke there. So Oregon State's got to be ready. I don't see this being a trap game at all. I see Arizona being a trap game. There's a couple others on the schedule I see being a little more. This is not one of them. So W, Jake?
I've got this chopped up at 48-17, Oregon State.
Ooh, we're not even close on this one.
I think this game is going to be a blowout. I think you'll see a ton of Gulbranson and Childs in this game.
Okay, look at that. That could be fun. If you're there, though, make sure to go to Boulder. It's a great time to go. Lots of Beaver fans there to tailgate with. It is a good one. O-line could be question mark for them. So hopefully the front seven has some fun. Okay, so you have the Beavs right now, 9-0. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Beavs come home and they get. Connor says that Colorado's going to start 3-0. That's fine.
I don't see them beating TCU or Nebraska.
Colorado can go ahead and start 3-0, but Oregon State at 9-0, I'll take that any day of the. Okay, so now they return home and they have Stanford. Coach Troy Taylor came from Sac State. He brought with him former Beaver running back Malcolm Agnew as the running back coach. Young coaching staff, very energetic, trying to infuse some life to Stanford. Strength is their edge rushers. Weakness is quarterback. How bad is this game going to be?
Yeah, Stanford's got a whole lot of question marks. The quarterbacks obviously stands out. Early reports have been Justin Lamson, transfer from Syracuse. He's kind of been leading the way, but there's been a handful of guys. They've narrowed it down to 3. Skill player-wise, they have a freshman receiver, Tiger. Here's the other brother, Tiger Hockmeyer, who's the younger brother of Hank Hockmeyer, and he's going to start as a freshman. It's a name to know.
They had a Bear, though, too, right?
Bear's the one in high school still. He's
a
25 quarterback. Oregon State's offered him. There's Hank, Tiger, and Bear.
Wow.
Yeah, 3 interesting names. But their defense is kind of an issue. They've got guys like David Bailey, Tavera Tafiti at the edge, defensive end, outside backer spots, and they're solid players. But beyond that, the secondary in particular, a lot of young guys, a lot of unknowns. They lost guys to the NFL. I see Oregon State being able to score the ball at ease, and I feel like Stanford's gonna have a hard time throwing the ball on Oregon State.
Okay, so 10-0.
Yeah, 42-10, Oregon State win.
Okay, and I'm right there with you. I
Yeah.
have this team at 10-0 right now, heading into a brutal 2-game stretch. The next game is Washington coming to town. The Huskies come to town with Coach Kalen DeBoer. Strength of this team, according to Kim Grinolds and their team at Dogman, is the offense. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. And their weakness is special teams. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I have this one chalked up as Oregon State's first loss. I have them dropping a 28-27 heartbreaker. Ruins the undefeated season. But this is a game I could very well see Oregon State pulling out. At this point, I haven't seen enough from Oregon State's secondary to lead me to believe that they'll be able to slow down Jalen McMillan, Jalen Polk, Roma Dunze, and Michael Penix is a great quarterback. He proved it last year, threw for 30-something touchdowns. The running game for them, I think, is going to be better. Offensive line, they lost guys like Jackson Kirkland, but I think they'll still be strong as a whole. Their defense with Braylon Trice, Zion Tupelo-Fati'i, I think that's how you say it. Their defensive line in particular is going to be strong, I think. Their linebacker core will be good. Secondary will be good. Their kicking game is a big question mark. They lost Peyton Henry, who was there for as long as I could remember. I think the guy they have to replace him is named Grady Gross. Really won't know much about that until the season goes. But, again, I just think their passing game is going to be too explosive.
I have this one as a loss as well. I do just think that at some level, Oregon State has to have a letdown game. I don't think anybody in the Pac-12 this year goes undefeated. So I think there will be a loss in there. I just think Washington is too good, even though this game is at home. Now, I think I would have picked it as a for sure loss if it was on the road. This was tough between this one, Utah. I think and then Arizona. Those were kind of my three that I kind of wavered on. But that was my loss. So we're sitting at 10-1. You and I both have them at 10-1 now. Before we head to Autzen Friday after Thanksgiving. Yeah. Dan Lanning coaching his second year with the Ducks. Strength is their skill position. Their weakness, offensive line.
Yeah.
Okay. How does this one go?
This may be kind of a homer pick here, but I have the Beavers pulling one out 34-28. I think this Oregon team is going to be worse than they were last year. I really, skill-wise, with Bo Nix, Bucky Irving, Troy Franklin, they've got some dudes. Went hard in the transfer portal, picked up Trayshawn Holden, Tez Johnson, good, talented wideouts. But their offensive line, to me, they lost all starters except one, Marcus Harper. So he's the only starter back. Lost Alex Forsyth, TJ Bass, the lineman that got picked up by the Ravens. I'm not even going to try and say his name. They went hard, hit the transfer portal, picked up a kid from Texas, Rhode Island. But I can't see this team being better. Their defense, I think, is going to be worse. They lost Noah Sewell. Their linebacking core is kind of a question mark. Secondary, again, transfer portal. I just think all these guys are unproven. They haven't really played together, which I think is going to hurt them at the end of the day. And I think Oregon State, emotions are going to be high. This very well could be the last Civil War we ever see, which is crazy to think. And I see guys like Damian, Josh Gray, Catan just playing their hearts out, and I see Oregon State pulling one out here.
Yeah, their offensive line is a question mark. Like I said, they have a lot of skill position player talent, but I also don't know about their defense. I mean,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Brandon Dorless.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, they couldn't stop the run when they knew it was coming last year. I rewatched that game again just the other night, and it still is baffling to me.
And they lost two NFL defensive linemen.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think they picked any big name up.
No, a lot of we're talking late November now. Oregon State needs to stay healthy. There's a lot going on here.
Yeah.
But I have this as a win because I think this is going to be a chippy game. I think this.
Yeah, it's going to be physical.
We might see some, kind of angers flare. It's gonna, like I said, it's gonna be one for the ages. I have a feeling.
Yeah,
and
it's gonna be a good game.
I think the Oregon State Beavers are going to be the emotional team, the most emotional team there.
I think if you're at this game, you're going to get your money's worth one way or another. The Beavers aren't going to go down without giving them their peace of mind, which I'm not going to give my thoughts on the situation. But
okay, so you and I both have this team 11-1. Playing USC. Is that who you have? I have them playing USC in the Pac-12 title game.
I have Oregon State playing USC. Then I just think SC is going to be too talented at this point. I haven't seen enough from the Oregon State secondary to stop this SC defense. But I have Oregon State going 11-2 and making a New Year's Six Bowl against Clemson, ironically enough.
Oh, wouldn't that be fun for DJ?
In which DJ leads Oregon State to a win over Clemson. So 12-2 is my prediction at the moment.
Okay, that would be fun. Nick Volker has a comment here about Dan Lanning. He says that's a weakness column. I actually am not going to disagree with you on that because I just haven't seen enough of him as a head coach making good decisions for that to not be true. That when I was going game by game, I was it's like, okay, well, Utah, UCLA, Washington at home, that's positive. Oregon on the road, Oregon has a ton of talent, but like Jake said, they haven't played together. So you wonder how all those egos are going to mesh.
And a lot of these kids are highly touted kids that a lot of times those kids come with the bigger egos and sometimes
there's a lot of ego. I mean, they're getting them from transfer portals and there's a lot on the line there. A lot of money being, thrown around down there in Eugene. And expectations are high. I just think, like I said, Dan Lanning is 1 year removed from a D coordinator. So it's a different ball game when you're coaching head coach. So like I said, I'm nothing against him. It's just there's a question mark. And I had the same question mark about Jonathan Smith for a couple of years. So until you see more, then.
Yeah. And another big note is if you look at that Dan Lanning defense at Georgia, all 11 of those guys are in the NFL. So maybe it was more of a talent. I mean, you've got guys that were backups on that team even in the NFL now. Like Jalen Carter started a game, and now he was turned into a top 10 draft pick. So talent could have outweighed coaching there.
Yeah, and I think it was still – there was some good coaching going on. But, there's a lot of variables there that I think are still kind of up in the air. Okay, so Clemson in the New Year's Six Bowl game. That would, I think, if you ask anybody in Beaver world, they would be happy with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very happy.
Okay, so we actually don't have a ton of time, so we're going to scrap the Guess the Beaver. I'm going to jump over here. I guess our special guest had meetings, so we're going to try to get him on. I already have someone lined up for the 4th of September, so we have a player lined up for that day. So we're going to work on getting this one another day. It is tough right now for these guys because – oh, my light just died. It is tough for these guys because it is in season or not in season. So they have a lot more meetings going on right now in film study. Okay. So there's a lot of comments here. So let's kind of see if we can, let's see how much OBG says, how much should we expect the passing game to improve this year? Who and why will it be better? Is it all on DJ, or do you think the receivers make a difference too?
I think the receivers have some studs. I mean, obviously having a quarterback of DJ's caliber is – Oregon State hasn't seen a 5-star quarterback since Derek Anderson. That was 20 years ago. But receiver-wise, with Silas Bolden and Anthony Gould, those two are going to pop this year. I think they're both going to reach 600, 700 yards easily. Their speed combined with DJ's deep ball is going to be something to watch. And then even beyond that, Josiah Irish has had a really good camp. Jimmy Valson's a younger guy, Jeremiah Noga, Jemiah East, Trent Walker. They've got Zach Card even. I think he's definitely going to see time as well. They've got guys. I think it's a more deep room than last year, which is kind of weird to think because like on paper, at least last year's team at receiver looked so much better, but I think this year's group is going to be better.
Okay. Beeves Fanatic 123 asks, who's a player that hasn't had much live game rep thus far in their collegiate career, but you expect to contribute in a big way?
Yeah, I mean, a couple guys, offensive side of the ball, Jimmy Valson comes to mind, hasn't seen a ton of action. Defense side of the ball, Takari Hickle, Thomas Collins, Tyrese Ivey, more of the newcomers or the redshirt freshman guys that I think will see time. I think Cord Shaw, if he's healthy, could make an impact as well on both sides of the ball. He could kind of take over the Jack Coletto type role, special teams, linebacker, running back, fullback. So those guys are younger guys to keep an eye on.
Okay, Shaka from 503 says, I have a few. 1, are the running backs better at catching passes this year, and which one is the best receiving back?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen them try and implement receivers catching the ball more. I know
running backs?
The running backs. Trey Lowe last year, he was going to be a big part of that. He had 4 catches in the first game. Then he went down, but Fenwick, Jam, and Dame combined for, I want to say, like 12 catches last year, so not a whole ton of receiving production. But they've definitely tried to implement that more. Isaiah Newell in particular has been a guy that he's been catching the ball out of the backfield, and then last Saturday, Damian caught a pass out of the backfield and scored a touchdown on it. So I do think screen game-wise, that's going to be something to keep an eye on towards the start of the season.
We already talked a little bit about Jahmai East. Which receiver tight ends have the best catching ability?
In terms of catch radius, Jermaine Terry's a guy. He's a bigger body. He's long. He can go up and get balls low, high. He'll go and catch the ball. Jeremiah Noga, Trent Walker have the best hands on the team. Then Silas always seems to come up with these acrobatic catches. I think he had 3 of the best catches all year last year with the Florida catch. The Stanford touchdown catch was incredible. And then the Arizona State catch with one hand was the best catch I'd seen an Oregon State player make, but he couldn't keep his feet in bounds.
Yeah, that was – I think we see big things from him.
Yeah.
And the one in the bowl game too was good too.
Mm-hmm.
Elwood Beeve just says, does the Pac X have a media deal lined up for 2024? If not, who are they in talks with? Okay, we weren't going to talk too much about this. We'll give you a little bit. From what we've heard, the Pac-4 was trying to – they have Oliver Luck. He was on campus on Friday. Friday, right? Friday.
No,
Thursday. He was on Oregon State campus Thursday. He is the one that's kind of trying to work behind the scenes to help get a deal. All word that we had heard, and I think it was close, was that the Pac-4 were going to try to merge with 4 or 5 teams from the AAC. So SMU, Tulane, there were South Florida, a couple there, Memphis, and have kind of an East and a West division. And then in the year following, try to pick up San Diego State, a couple others. Stanford and Cal apparently now have gone back trying to get an invite to the ACC. I believe that there's talks about another vote happening in the next day or two, as early as possible tomorrow. They are still trying to get anything they can to get to the ACC, which would leave the Pac-2. A few weeks ago, I would have said that was the best case scenario because then the Big 12 would be more desirable for the Big 12. Now I hear Big 12 is done for now. I think I've been trying to, the most important things for fans to do right now is to buy tickets and support this team. But I've been trying to send anything positive I see about Oregon State. You just tweet at Big 10 or Big 12. I still think that makes the most sense, but we've learned through this is that nothing that makes sense is being done. I feel
like culturally the Big 12 is the best fit for.
Well, my husband even said another move that he thought would make sense, if you want to talk about making sense, is the 4 should go to the Big 10, and then you have the Pac-8 and the Big 8, just like the old days, and they all be Big 10, but you'd have the 8 teams in the West, 8 teams in the East. It kind of makes sense from that historic rivalry and historic, but like I said, everything that has made sense. And the funny thing that I'm hearing, so remember Washington and Oregon didn't want to risk taking that Apple deal, the 25 million with a chance to go above that with subscriber numbers. They did not want to take Apple deal because they said that was, trying to sell subscriptions was not, what they wanted to do. They wanted to take a half a share in the Big 10. The latest rumors are that Apple is looking to buy ESPN.
Yeah.
So how about that?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. I think there's going to be a lot of litigation coming here, whether that's from George Kliakoff, and what maybe the USC Carol Folt knew, that didn't when she blocked Pac-12 expansion. I think there's and other schools. I'm not trying to pick out. I think there's several schools there that the Pac-12. I think the commissioner. I think there's Apple. I think there's going to be a lot of ugly litigation here in the years to come. But right now, Oregon State needs to win, and Oregon State doesn't have time to wait out litigation. They need a home. Yeah. So hopefully, Power 5.
I mean, something else that's really interesting and sticks out to me is Washington's athletic director left for SC today. Not even 3 weeks after. And that kind of makes me think, because the rumor has it is Washington was the school, not Oregon, that kind of at the very end pushed their way too. So maybe she was setting things up for USC travel easy around. I don't want to think about. It's just an interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there, and a lot of very expensive, powerful lawyers are already working behind the scenes on all that. So, but like I said, Oregon State doesn't have the luxury to sit and wait. They don't have a endowment that they can sit and subsidize athletics, millions and millions of dollars while this plays out. They need a home, and hopefully it's a good one. So, like you said, culturally, I think Big 12 is a great fit for all other sports, for baseball, for gymnastics, for wrestling. I think it's just there's several land grant schools there. Budget-wise, Oregon State falls kind of in that the budget. Anyway, we could go on and on like this forever. There is a thread in the lodge with over 300,000 views that we do talk about all this. So make sure, like I said, if you're not a member, we talk about a lot more than just Beaver sports there. So join beaverblitz.com, save 30%. Season starts, goodness, in a week and a half.
13
next
days.
week might look a little different. We're playing it by ear just because next Monday I will be moving my 18-year-old son into college. I'm already sad. I've already had tears. So keep me in your thoughts because this is going to be a tough one for this mama. But maybe have Carter come back. We'll see Jake. We'll try to work something out. But we will definitely be back then the following week, Jake and I, to talk about that San Jose State game. Stick with Beaver Blitz for all the latest. And Jake, we'll see you in Corvallis again tomorrow.
Yep. Let's get it.